Another important factor in child development is the bond that is formed between a child and its parents or caregivers. Developmental psychologists refer to this connection as attachment.
Attachment really forms the basis for emotional relationships later in life. This is one reason why attachment is so important in early childhood and in infancy. A securely attached child is a child who feels that his or her needs are going to be met, that his needs are going to be met appropriately and quickly and so forth and so on. So a securely attached child feels free to explore.
There you go.
On the other hand, an insecure attachment may develop when parents are neglectful, insensitive, or inconsistent in meeting a child's needs. This is then reflected in the child's ambivalent attitude toward the parent or caregiver. Developmental psychologists have come up with an ingenious way to measure the level of attachment in infants and toddlers.
The prototypic assessment strategy is something called the strange situation. And in short, this is a videotaped interaction in which the caregiver is with the infant or toddler, leaves the room for a period of time, another adult, one of the experimenters, comes in, and there's several comings and goings, if you will. And the theory is that this will elicit the attachment behaviors on the part of the child.
An insecurely attached infant doesn't have that sense of certainty about the caregiver. And so they're going to either be very anxious and clinging to the caregiver, or the opposite, where they really kind of are standoffish and stay away from that caregiver. You'll see a securely attached child in a strange environment will use his mother or father or caregiver as a secure base. And you can see this happen if you watch a mother and a baby in a new environment. The baby will explore and then come back to the mother. They'll maybe crawl away, come back to the mother. But they know that they're free to explore because they believe or they're convinced that the mother will be there for them when they need her.
To date, most of the attachment research has been done with infants and their mothers. But there's a growing body of research on infants' attachment with fathers, as well as alternative caregivers. One of the most interesting findings is that the same infant can have different attachment classifications with two different parents or two different caregivers.
The quality of the relationship between a mother and an infant and a father and an infant can differ. And we might have a secure father-child attachment bond and an insecure mother-child attachment bond. So there is something about the quality of the particular relationship. As fathers are more invested in childbearing, as fathers spend more time physically engaged with their children, there's a higher likelihood that they will have secure bonds with their infant and the infant with them.
Men sometimes feel, especially when they have young babies, that there's really nothing they can do. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. The way men play with babies, the way men are with babies, the way their wives respond when men are with babies, all of that has an important role to play. And as the children get older, one of the things that we can document is that, sure, it's important how moms are with their kids, but it's equally important to know how the fathers are with their kids, because what fathers do with their sons and what fathers do with their daughters makes a tremendous difference to how these kids do in their social lives, in their academic lives, as they go on through life.
There are plenty of immediate rewards for both parent and child in forming a secure attachment. But developmental psychologists also believe that the quality of attachment during infancy can be associated with a variety of long-term effects.
Several lines of research have shown fairly conclusively that an insecure attachment between infant and caregiver is one, not the sole, but one factor leading to social difficulties and behavior problems later in life.
On the other hand, researchers have found that children who experience a secure attachment grow up to have fewer problems, do better in school, and have more successful relationships than their insecurely attached peers.
Which one do you want to sit on? The top or the bottom? Connor, Emma's going to swing.
Childhood is marked by many different types of development. Motor skills increase and grow stronger,
If it's on the bottom, she can be on the top.
while at the same time, improved language skills make it easier for children to communicate. But perhaps the area that parents are most concerned about is a child's cognitive development. That is, their ability to think, remember, and process information. Without a doubt, no one has influenced the area of cognitive development more than Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget.
Piaget was really the father of cognitive development. And in some ways, we're really lucky in cognitive development because unlike other areas of psychology that had millions of conflicting ideas, we at one point had this very clear theory that started our entire discipline, and that was really Piaget.
One thing that's important to remember about Piaget's theory of cognitive development is that Piaget really wasn't concerned with whether or not children understood the world accurately, but what he wanted to know is how they came to know and understand the world. His basic theory is that there are 4 stages of cognitive development. The first stage is called the sensory motor stage, and we're talking infants and young children there, 0 to approximately 2 years of age. And the title of the stage, sensory motor, this is largely how that infant, that young child knows the world through their sensory and through their motor activities. So they touch things, they use their hands, their mouth, they put things in their mouth, the infant does, to understand differences in various kinds of objects.
To determine how far a child had progressed through the sensory motor stage, Piaget devised a simple but ingenious way to evaluate their understanding of a concept called object permanence.
Object permanence is the understanding that objects exist independently of us. In other words, even though the object is not in our immediate perception, we still know it exists somewhere. Now, according to Piaget, this ability, or the knowledge of object permanence is not available to newborns, but it's something that develops over the first 2 years of life. Object permanence is tested by presenting a child with an interesting object. For example, a set of keys. You would dangle the keys in front of the infant, and the infant will think that they're very exciting, and he'll reach out to grab them. And right before he grabs the keys, you quickly cover it with a cloth, for example, or a diaper. And what happens if the child does not have object permanence is they'll stop reaching. It's as if out of sight, out of mind. Once the keys are covered, the baby thinks that the keys no longer exist.
On the other hand, if the baby has developed a sense of object permanence, he will quickly realize what's happened and retrieve the interesting object from its hiding place.